Welcome back to the Advent of Sintran. This is 2025, day 6. Let's see if my stream is working. I'm live. Is my audio working? I'm live. Looks like everything's up and running. Yeah, so day 5 went fairly smooth yesterday. Hopefully day 6 isn't too bad here. How much time until the puzzle unlocks? 2 minutes. Yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, skip to, like 2 minutes and 40 seconds when the puzzle unlocks. I think that's about when I started streaming, a minute ago. No glitches in my video feed. Who else is live? Stu Squared, Stewart, couple other people. One minute. Was it yesterday or was it 2 days ago? I rewatched my stream. As soon as the puzzle unlocked, like it's not clickable right now, but as soon as it unlocked, I clicked it and I got like some kind of weird error screen. It said like the puzzle's not available yet. And it says that, like, I think the error message said something about the time being synchronized with the server, but maybe my system time is off. I don't know. I don't know how I was able to click it and then not actually get through. So it probably wouldn't have happened if I clicked like a fraction of a second later. Curious if it's going to happen again, though. Probably not. Like, if I have to click it at exactly the right time, then it might be a pretty minuscule chance that I'll actually run into it. All right, here we go. It's about to unlock. Yeah, worked just fine that time. Let's download my input. Looks like a grid. We've got pluses, asterisks, spaces. Anything else? Yeah, here's my template. And let's get the test input. Test input.txt. I think that's it. So we have numbers and then symbols. Right, yeah, so there are numbers at the top here that I didn't see initially. And there's only one line of symbols at the bottom. There's only 5 lines in the whole input file. All right, so my template should just echo the input. There we go. This is day 6. So what are we doing? Cephalopod math. So these numbers can be added or multiplied. Horizontal list. Oh, they're arranged vertically? Okay, so we're looking at columns. Well, that's gonna be slightly annoying to parse. I have a helper to like parse a whole file, but not like parse a whole file and ignore the last line. Unless I treat these characters as delimiters, maybe I can do that. Okay, so we're not like doing permutations of operations. It's just plus this whole column times this whole column. At least for part one, we don't have to work through permutations of plus or times, addition or multiplication. All right, so we work out the operations and then we sum all of these together. Unroll it. I guess they just mean like zoom out. We do this in a tab. All right. Unless I'm missing something, part one doesn't seem too bad here. More of a parsing problem than anything else. Just get these things into an array and then parse the symbols in the last row. Or the operators, I should say, in the last row. Okay, so we're going to do a trick here to get the last line. I can just do it here. Yeah, what does the last read do? I might end up with an empty string if I do it like this. I might have to do a little extra work. Yeah, that doesn't work. So I'm gonna have to update this in the loop. Let's just initialize it to an empty string and then set it to the string every time we actually read something. A lot of extra copying, but that's an easy way to get the last line and save it. Because then it actually reads one more time past the end of the file, and then it exits the loop. And on that iteration, it just gets a blank line for string, but here we've saved the last line. Okay, so we did that, and now I want to parse the numbers. So how about T for table? Read I32 mat delim. I think that should work. It takes the file name and then delimiters, I think. So space, plus, and times. Are those the only operators? So if I search for something that's not a star, highlights everything but the stars. If I search for not plus, and then also not a space. So yeah, those are the only operators that we have. I wanted to make sure there wasn't like subtraction or division. I mean, how would you even do that? But yeah, they're not here, so that's a good sanity check. I could have done that programmatically, but it's easy to just look at the file once instead of write the code for it. Okay, so do we get the numbers or the table of numbers? All right, that's, oh, no. What happened there? Okay. Yeah, it messes up the last line, but I think I can just ignore that. We got a little undefined behavior there. So my table parsing helper function here, this isn't built into Syntran, this is in my utils. Read I32 mat delim, it's just defined here. Or it's used here, but it's defined here. It counts the number of lines in the file. So because we have that extra line at the bottom, it thinks it has to load another line, but then it doesn't actually have to load any numbers there because it treats all of these as delimiters. So we're going to trim that last line. So we want all of the rows and all but one of the columns. Okay, now we got rid of that extraneous line, so these are the actual numbers. Now we have to, do I need to parse these? Yeah, might as well. So ops are going to be split the last line with just spaces as a delimiter. And then we're going to get a vector of strings. And then we just need to apply these operators to each column of the table. Not each row, but each column. So if the operator is plus, note that these are going to have different initial values. So we're going to initialize, you could just initialize it to the first row. So for plus, we're going to start out with 0. And how big are these numbers? They're not that big. I'm worried that we're going to get overflow as a result of multiplying a bunch of them. So I'm going to keep it as I64. I hope we don't need actual big nums. That would make this difficult. And then, do I have prod built into Syntran? No, I don't even need this. For plus, I'm pretty sure I have sum built in. I'm not sure about prod or product. So sum plus equals the sum function of the table X and all of the rows. Otherwise, we have a star operator. And then we're going to increment the sum by the product of that column. Maybe it's product. It's either product or I just don't have it. Cool, it does exist. 42,77556. Got the test input. As long as I don't need big nums, part 1's not too bad. Famous last words. I mean, it's not negative. If it was negative, then we would have clearly overflowed. Doesn't even tell me if I'm too high or too low. That's weird. So that was wrong. Just want to note it there so I can see if I get a different number. Let's be careful about this logic. Exit with an error code or error status. Well, there are no bad operators. What if, I think this is returning an I32. So I think I might want to cast here. Okay, that's a different number. That's good, I guess. There we go. All right, I just had an overflow issue because this was returning I32s, obviously, as I32 in the name there. And then even though my sum is 64-bit. The result of this sum is an intrinsic, it's built into Syntran, and it's overloaded. You can't overload user-defined functions, but these built-in functions are special. So these are overloaded. If it has an i32 argument, it returns an i32. Or if it has an i64 argument, it returns an i64. So sum might be okay. Product is probably the one that overflows. Maybe they both overflow, I don't know. But if you give this i32s, it could overflow the result. Even though sum doesn't overflow, like the intermediate result is overflowing. So if I cast this, it fixes that problem. All right. Yeah. So that's part one. What's part two? Right to left. Where? What? Right to left. Where are they getting 623? Oh, you look at the columns like this. Okay. So we have a 6, 2, 3. So that's where you get 6, 2, 3. And you have 4, 3, 1. And then you have, how are they aligned? So now the alignment matters. So the alignment is the hard part here. Let's look at this one. 175, 581, 32. 8, 248, 369, 356, 241. So these are aligned on the right. These ones are aligned on the left. So now spaces are significant. Space. So here it's in part one, it says the alignment can be ignored. And it doesn't really say this explicitly. Maybe it does, but I didn't read this carefully enough. But now the spaces matter. So that is a little tricky. I don't know why we're saying right to left. I don't see how that matters. I think it's easier to look at it. The lines are just so long, like I cannot visualize this. Are they all 3 digits? Now we have a 4-digit number here. 0 through 9. Okay, digit. Twice. Is this regex? Okay, so we have 2-digit numbers, we have 4-digit numbers, any 5-digit numbers. We do have padding at the end, so I guess that helps. Hey, Claude code. Hey, Claude, solve this freaking problem for me. Yeah, that's a good idea. It's against Eric's rules, though. What are the rules exactly? Are you allowed to use AI to help? Like, are you allowed to use Copilot with just auto-completion? I don't think you can just use AI to do everything for you, though. Anyway, that takes away the fun. Welcome to the stream. Random letters and numbers. Three, 5, 6. 3, 5, 6. Are the operators lined up vertically with their corresponding numbers? So for the sample, they are. Yeah, so these are not evenly spaced. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4 columns, and here we only have 3. So I think we can just use the spacing of the operators to figure out at least where the numbers start and end. And then there's one extra space just as delimiting. So where do we have... There are no 5-digit numbers, but there are 4-digit numbers. So we have one of those in column 33. So this is column 33. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have a space delimiter. Okay, so yeah, that was like the part I was struggling with. Like, how do I just figure out where the numbers start and end? Because you have to get the ones digit. I don't know if it's actually the ones versus tens. So dumb, I was thinking 5-digit numbers, something that ended in 5. Well, if you look at the regex, if you don't know regex, you might think this is something that ends in 5, but it's \d is a digit, and then this inside of curly braces means 5 of the previous character. So this means a 5-digit number. This means, actually this just means at least a 4-digit number. So if I search for 3-digit numbers, it's also highlighting the 4-digit ones. But that's how that regex works. Yeah, so I can use the spacing of the operators to figure out where the numbers start and end. So let's try to get the test input correct first, at least. So I think I don't want to parse these as numbers. I want to load them as strings and then have an array of each line as a string. Yeah, 5 all numbers disappeared because there aren't any 5-digit numbers. Yeah, so like we can use 4 as an example here. So if I do 4, these are going to disappear because there aren't any 4-digit numbers. This means find something that has exactly 4 digits. So there aren't any here. If I did digits or spaces, so 0 through 9 or white space, now we find things. You have strings of digits or spaces that are at least 5 characters long. So it the highlighting disappears if it's not finding any matches. Okay, let's... I don't know if part 1 is going to be too helpful here, but let's copy part 1 to part 2 and uncomment this call. Let's count the lines in the file. And then we're going to allocate a string or a vector of strings to save each line. I want to go back to the test input. Okay. So let's just get a delimiter there so I can see where part 2 starts. Okay, so this is part 2. We have 4 lines. I'm going to subtract 1 and only allocate 3 lines to save the numbers. I think that should work. And we're going to ignore the operator line for that purpose. So decrement that by 1, and then allocate our vector of strings for the lines. So empty strings initially, n lines. Yeah, I can change this. What did I just do there? So for I in 0 n lines, we're going to read all the numbers and save them. So lines I is going to be read line. And then we're going to get the last line for the operators. What if I call it like ops str? So read one more line. Maybe I'll put braces here for clarity. And this is now ops str. We're not even going to bother with this. We're not going to have a numeric table. We're going to treat everything like strings at first. Oh, I need a file handle, not the file name. So this is just F. Yeah, I opened the file. Okay. So we have the operator string. And then I want to print the numbers too as a vector of strings. It's going to look kind of funny. Yeah, so they're all in one row because that's just the way that Syntran prints vectors. It prints them in one row. And that should be easier to work with now. So now I think I want to iterate over this operator string. And I want to have the position of the operator that I'm on. And then I want to get either the position of the next operator or the end of the string for the final case. Be quiet, Alacrity. So then from these columns, these ones not counting the extra space padding, I'm going to process the corresponding columns of the numeric lines above it and then do math on it. I think so I can see this, I still want to print the lines as I'm reading them. because I want to see it in this columnar layout. Okay, yeah, so this is easier to think about now. I can see 3, 5, 6. That's going to be one of the numbers that we have to do math with. So 3, 5, 6 is there. So this row is always the ones place, right? And then this row is going to be the tens, and this is going to be hundreds. So you have like 600 something. No, that's backwards. This is going to be hundreds. This one's in the middle, so that's still tens. This is ones. 3, 5, 6. No, that's also wrong because it depends on how many numbers are below it. But we're just going to treat them like strings and not really think about ones, tens, or hundreds places. So we're going to concatenate the 1 with blank spaces because there are only spaces below it. So that just becomes a 1. Then we're going to concatenate 2 with 4, and that forms 24. Then we're going to concatenate 3 with 5 with 6. Yeah, so you don't really have to worry about ones, tens, or hundreds places. And then these get the star operator, so you take the product of them. Let's see if I can do that. Okay. I want the number of operators because that's going to be the number of loop iterations that I do. So we have 4. That makes sense. And then we're going to iterate through those. We're just going to initialize to something. Pretty sure I have scan. Okay, so this is not built in, but it's a Syntran helper function. No, I think it's easier to just scan manually. Maybe I want to initialize this to 0. And at the end of this loop, I'm going to want to increment this to go to the next operator. This is why I saved a string. Call start equals space. I'm going to have a problem at the end, won't I? So maybe we'll worry about that later. So it should be initially 0, and then we'll get like 4 or something. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 should be the next one. And then I think it's going to crash on the last one, actually. Okay, it didn't crash. 04812. 0. This shows 1 based indexing, so 1, 5, 9, 13. That's actually correct. Okay. And then we also want the end. Yeah, so I actually want to scan for the end. I don't want to scan for the start. So let's undo this. So we're going to update it like that at the end of the loop. And we still have to scan for the next operator, but we're going to do the other variable. So call end. But for the final, this one is going to crash, right? We're going to get 048. No, we're gonna get 4812 crash. That didn't work because we now need to increment this. Okay, it didn't crash. That's weird. I think it is overflowing and it's just not crashing by coincidence. So if iop equals nops minus 1, then call end is just the length of the string. Need a semicolon there, and otherwise we can scan. So I think it should be the same, but this is the proper way to do it without any buffer overflows. And now let's confirm that that slice is correct. Ops str call start to call end. Did I get like, I might be off by one. Let's put a closing quote there so I can see where the spaces are. Yeah, that is not correct. I want to do this before I increment the other thing. Okay, there we go. And this one has one fewer column because there's no padding at the end of this one. Maybe I want to do it +1. Keep getting bots. Let me block this bot. All right, blocked. Bot blocked. Okay, now I have to concatenate the columns into strings. So for call in call start through call end. I'm not sure about this +1. We'll see what happens here. So we're going to start with an empty string. And then we're going to concatenate over the rows or the lines. So for line in lines, num string plus equals line call. Let's see what that does. Well, it crashed. And I can't control C it. We got 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 8. That's not right. No, line call. Yeah, so of course that didn't work. Okay, that seems reasonable. 1, 2, 4, 3, 5, 6. 3, 6, 9, 2, 4, 8, 8. 3, 6, 9, 2, 4, 8, 8. 175, 581, 32. 175, 581, 32. 623, 431. 431 and 4. This right to left thing is a red herring. They just said this to throw you off. I'm doing this left to right because I'm pretty sure it doesn't matter. Maybe I'm misreading something, but that part doesn't matter. Okay, so now we have to add up or multiply up everything in one column, everything in one problem, as they say it. So we're like working with this from strings. We don't have an array ahead of time, so it's not as easy as just using the built-in sum or product functions like in part 1. So I started to write code for this, but then I remembered I had those functions. So num string. So when we print this, we want to do something with the operator. So res is going to be 0, and if ops iop equals star, and we're going to start with 1 for the product. And this is the initial result before we've actually done the sums or products. So sometimes we get 1s, sometimes we get 0s, because sometimes we have stars, sometimes we have pluses. And now we want to convert the number to a string, or convert the string to a number. Let num equals parse I32 num string, and then let me steal this. Res times equals num. Otherwise, res plus equals num. And let me not print this one so I don't get confused. So this should be the result of each problem, and then we still have to sum it up for like the answer. Okay, I think I got a blank string. If num string is empty, just continue. Nope. Why? Oh. So there aren't any, like it's just spaces. How do I check that? I don't know. I should have a better way to do this. But if it's spaces of that length, I think that should work. Oh, this has to be I64. Yeah, this is very sloppy looking. What's wrong with that? Oh, it is I-32. So I had the right idea, but I casted it to the type that it already is. It got further before it crashed. Eight five 8544. All right. 634314. 634314. I think that +1 that I was worried about is wrong. Will that not crash? Okay, that doesn't crash now. Can I get the right answer? So finally, outside of this loop, I actually only want to print it down here. Sum plus equals res. 326, 3827. Okay. Hopefully the real input isn't too much weirder than this. Can I just get rid of this bot message? Like, I blocked the guy, but... Restrict? I don't know how to get this out of my OBS browser source. Anyway, let's see if I can get the answer here. I'm not sure if this logic will work for the real input, but we got a number. No. Could it be types? Okay, what did I try? I tried this. Ended with 921. So will I get something different? Definitely got something different. I think it was like the exact same over. Come on, man, you're killing me. I'm on a roll here. No. Maybe something else is overflowing. Do I have anything else that could even overflow? They're only like 5 digits, right? 409. Wait. 2024. I copied and pasted the wrong thing. Ended with 409. Still ends with 409. So I think changing this I-32 to I-64 didn't change anything, but I just copied the wrong number. I copied this instead of this. Might still be on a cooldown here. Let's see how much time I've got. There we go. Okay. I was really worried there. But fortunately, my only mistake was copying the wrong thing. Well, actually, I made 2 mistakes. First, I had an overflow, and then I copied the wrong thing. But I was really worried I had some more difficult bug to solve, but I didn't. Good puzzle. How am I doing on these leaderboards? That's out of date. Information might be delayed. I have seen that before, but I don't think I've ever actually noticed it being out of date. I definitely submitted my thing, right? Both parts are complete. I definitely did that. I think I had dropped to about 17 right before midnight. Now I moved up a few places. If that part 2 hasn't registered yet, I might move up a little bit more. Okay, there we go. But I haven't moved up. So somehow I think it had me in the right position. It just didn't have the stars the right color. Because silver means just the first part. Gold means part 1A and part 2 for that day. Each day is a different column here. Anyway, I don't know why I even bother staying up until midnight. I don't really care about how well I do. I know I'm not going to get like first place on any private leaderboard, let alone the global leaderboard, if there was one. And I think there is no global leaderboard this year. Yeah, so that's one of the new things this year. How are the 4-trainers doing? Ooh, I'm killing the 4-trainers. These are mostly Fortran programmers. No shade. They're just not staying up till midnight. And I can't blame them because I never stayed up until midnight in previous years. Did I look? William Fung. I think Bad Cop has like the most active leaderboard here. How many? Yeah, I think this is the most active leaderboard out of the 4 that I'm in. I kind of have an idea for something else to do related to Advent of Code, but I also just want to like watch other people stream. I mean, Stewart is surely done by now. Yeah, he's done with today. So, yeah, I think I'm going to do some bonus content here. So what I've usually been doing is committing my code, and if we look at yesterday's commit here, I also commit the input and the test input, and that's a no-no. I didn't find this out until last year. I was unaware of this until recently. Is it in the about? Commit or share about? Publish. Basically, you're not supposed to upload the input to GitHub or share it publicly anywhere. Are there not like rules anywhere? Ah. Yep. Please don't include parts of Advent of Code like the puzzle text or your inputs. So definitely don't share the inputs, and then I would interpret this as don't share the test input either. So I have been breaking that rule, and I think I have a solution that I'm comfortable with. For this repo, I don't really care. I could just not push the input in any form. but I have a problem for Syntran. And you might ask, like, why is the Syntran interpreter itself relying on the advent of code? It's because I have unit tests. So there are tests, and there are a bunch of unit tests in here, like small stuff and scripts that I wrote that are just random problems. But then I have long tests to test like longer, more complicated programs. Because I think you need to have tests like this for a decent interpreter. You can't just assume that because simple programs work, complex programs are going to work. So for my long tests, I have advent of code problems, and these run in CI. So for them to run in CI, I need to have the input in some form. And this is not good. These are private inputs that I'm not supposed to redistribute. So I can't redistribute them like this, but my idea is to upload an encrypted version of the input and then have a secret as a GitHub secret, which like nobody but me will be able to see or use. And then in the automated GitHub Actions workflow, I can decrypt the inputs using that secret so that I can still do all the testing that I need to do, but I'm not actually sharing the input as plain text or in any form that can be converted to plain text by anybody besides me or by anybody outside of a GitHub Actions workflow. So I think I want to try to get something like that working. And it's going to take me a long time to like go through the Syntran repo here and convert all these to encrypted versions, but I want to start with like something minimal. And then at least for the Syntran or the advent of code repo, from here on out, I'm going to stop pushing the inputs. So I did for day 5, and that's there. I can't really remove it at this point. But for day 6, I'm not going to push the plain text input. I'm going to encrypt it and then push it. So I've been looking at OpenSSL and GPG. So OpenSSL is fine, but I can't get it to run on Windows, and I need these Syntran unit tests to run on every operating system. So the fact that I can't get it working on Windows, like it just hangs, that doesn't really work for me. I don't know what the issue is. Maybe there's some funny version of OpenSSL that came with MinGW, or maybe I'm just using it wrong. But GPG, GNU, I forget what GPG stands for. GNU Privacy, GNU Privacy Guard. Like, how can anybody remember that? That seems to work on Linux and Windows for me, and I hope it would work on Mac, but I actually don't have a Mac to test this on. Although the Syntran unit tests, they run on Windows, Linux, and Mac, so I hope it'll work on Mac. The other option is I could use like Crypto++, the C++ library, and write my own program to just get a key and encrypt a file. But I think GPG should work, and that should be better than rolling my own, even if I'm only rolling my own in the extent of using somebody else's library. So I think I'm going to try to use GPG, and I have some samples here cooked up. So let's see what I have here. I have the test input. Let me copy this to a backup. All right, so now in case I mess this up, I don't have to re-download or recopy it again while I'm messing around with this encryption stuff. So I had another tmux session here, and basically I have a sample here that just says hello world, and then you can encrypt this original file from plain text using this command, and I have a very secure password here, hunter2, And then this ciphers, I guess the C stands for cipher. I'm not really sure. It encrypts this file. And the default is to output it with an added .gpg extension. So I run that. And then if I list most recently, the most recent file, you can see I have original file .txt.gpg, and that's from last minute. Actually, it's now 12:58, but this is from when I just ran this command. And that is gobbledygook. It's encrypted. And then the way to decrypt that is another GPG command. So again, you need the same password. I'm trying out symmetric key encryption. So for symmetric key encryption, you need the same password to decrypt as you did to encrypt. There's no private key versus public key. The only key should be private. And for a sample here, this isn't secure because I'm just showing you that it's Hunter2. So if you had that password and the ciphertext, you could also decrypt this. So obviously this is not secure. But that command will decrypt it into new file.txt. And that's from just now, 12:58. And that should match the initial plain text, which just says hello world. And that does indeed match the original plain text. So these are the commands that I need. And then I'm actually going to get the passphrase from an environment variable, which will come from a GitHub secret. So I'm not going to show that on stream, the secret that I have planned for this. And then I should be able to, so this is the encryption command. I should be able to demo that with this test input. So this would be the command, but I'm going to change a few things here. So it's GPG batch. I guess batch just means it's not interactive. Normally, like a window would pop up for you to enter the passphrase. But I just want to pass the passphrase as a command line argument. And for the demo, I can still use Hunter2. And then the file that I'm going to encrypt is the test input. Yeah, I think I just want to do it like that. Okay, so I should have an encrypted file here. Not that one, that's my backup, but the .gpg is encrypted. That's indeed not readable. And then the decrypt command is this next one. But again, I have to modify these arguments. So it's batch again. You have to use the same passphrase. And let's say like, let's show what happens if I have the wrong password. Decrypt.txt. .gpg. So if you use a bad password, it will not do anything. It will just say bad session key. I can't decrypt this, and then it doesn't even produce the output that I asked for. So that file does not exist. But if I get the password right, which should be Hunter2, now I have this decrypted file, which should match the original test input. So that's my idea of how I want this to work. I'm only going to push this, and then I'm actually going to delete the test input and the real input and only push the encrypted versions. But I'm not going to do Hunter2. I'm going to do a secret, a GitHub secret, which will be saved in an environment variable securely. So that would be, this should be the encryption command right here. And my environment variable, which I already saved off stream. I think quotes are bad. If you don't use quotes, you can tab complete. No, I think I know what my issue is. I have to source to get that environment variable, because it won't tab complete to something that doesn't exist. There we go. Now I can just tab complete it. So this is my environment variable. It's not the actual password. It's some long, random, secure text. So I can do that. That's to encrypt. And then to decrypt should be the last hunter2. Yeah, the -d means decrypt, and -o means the output file. Now I can't use hunter2. So hunter2 is not my actual password. So again, it says failed, bad session key. But if I use the actual one, which I'm not going to show you, I'm just going to show you the name of the environment variable that contains it. That works. And then I have this, which is the test input again. So I want to, this is a long command with a bunch of arguments. So I want to have a script that does this. I guess I'll do it over here. I want to go back. I want to keep it in this top level directory. Encrypt, let's call it encrypt AOC, because it's limited in scope to this repo. That. What did I copy? I wanted to copy that. There we go. That has the whole environment variable name. And when you're in this script, I want to be careful to not do set -x. I always get -x and -e mixed up. Is X echo or is X stop on failures? Execution tracing printed before it runs. Yeah, so you don't want to use set -x. To turn it off, I think it's set +x. So I think if I did echo that, let me be extra careful here. Let me not even use my real password, because I think when it echoes, it's going to disambiguate, or is that the right word? It's going to dereference this environment variable into my actual password. So maybe let's just do that initially to test to make sure I have this working correctly. But I do want to exit on errors. And I want to take this as a command line argument. I don't know if I need quotes here. I generally just add quotes when I'm not sure. I'm sure a bash expert would know. And I need to use that here. That didn't work because I didn't give it an argument. $hash. Okay, but then I didn't actually exit. There we go. Okay, so that aborts if you call it with the wrong arguments. There we go. That made a file. And that would be the hunter2 password. So first of all, that didn't echo anything, right? Okay, that didn't actually show the command that it's using. So I should be safe to not leak my secret. And if I did, I could always just change it before I actually push this. And now you'll notice it still has GPG, so there's some like a magic number at the start of the file, which is always the same. But then after that, this part is different when I change my password. So that makes sense. So that's the encrypt wrapper script. And then I also want decrypt AOC. Maybe it only differs in a few arguments, so maybe I'll just save as. This is now ciphertext. And I think I want to like automatically strip the .gpg from there. I hard-coded my file name again. It's late here. I'm a little bit slow on the uptake. Maybe I want to put this at the very beginning. Not that it really matters for the purpose of syntax checking. Okay, so that encrypts, and then there's a -d argument and a -o instead of -c. And the order matters. So you have to have -o first, as far as I can tell, and then -d. So now this time the input is going to be the ciphertext. So -o. -d. Output plain text. And what is that going to be? Output plain text equals bash remove file extension. I do not have this stuff memorized. What about like remove a specific extension? Maybe this is fine. Look, keep the dot. No, it should get rid of the dot as well. Okay, so first of all, I need to change mod. And then I should get a usage message, and it has the right program name and the right example argument. And then if I give it an argument, I now have this, which overwrote my original one. That's fine. That's what I actually want to do eventually. And we got back to the original plain text. Yeah, so that's basically what I want. I think I'm just about done for tonight. Eventually, I want to have like more shell scripts that will not just encrypt one file or decrypt or encrypt. I want to have like another wrapper script which iterates over all of these numeric subdirectories and then goes into all of the numeric subdirectories of those and then finds all of the text files and encrypts all of them. And then in encrypt, I actually want to delete. I hard-coded my file name again. I keep doing that. All right, I had the mistake once, and then I saved it as the other file, and then that mistake just propagated. Okay, nothing hard-coded in here, right? Yeah, I think that's all of them. I probably want quotes for the passphrase. Well, now I'm worried because if it uses literally this as the passphrase, then that's not good. But it seems to work, so I'm going to keep it as is. There aren't any spaces in there. If there were spaces in there, I'm not going to tell you what else is in my character set. But if there were spaces in there, then you might have to quote this, but then you have to be careful of what kind of quotes you use, because double quotes will let you do variables. But single quotes would just mean this literal string of $AOC underscore GPG, so that wouldn't work. And we can actually demo this because this should say bad password. Yeah, that says bad session key. And this should verify that double quotes are safe, so maybe I will do that. So if this decrypts, it's 115. Just created this again. It looks legit. Okay, so the double quotes are fine. I assumed they would be, but I was paranoid that that might end up leaking something or encrypting it with a bad literal password, which is just exposed right there. But it seems okay. So yeah, I have these scripts for now, but then I want to have something else that iterates over all of my inputs that I've uploaded in previous years and encrypts them and makes them safe. And then I probably want like another script that downloads them all from scratch, just in case I mess something up or if I lose my passphrase and can't decrypt the stuff that I have anymore. So I will make those other scripts eventually, but for now I think these two, that's all I'm going to do for tonight. I've been streaming for like an hour and 20 minutes already. So I think I'm going to get this stuff committed and then, well, I'm not actually done because I want to remove this after I encrypt it. So let's encrypt that, and then let's encrypt the real input too. So now, yeah, I can always just download them again if I accidentally delete something that I needed. So let's get rid of these. And then all of this stuff should be encrypted. So that's encrypted. That's encrypted. So now I can push this stuff and then decrypt it later at any time without really leaking the stuff that I'm not supposed to distribute. Because I've been bad. I've been breaking Eric's redistribution rules. I was unaware of these until recently. I didn't think that like the input would be something that should be secret, but it is. So now I'd like to be in compliance with these terms of service, or I don't know if these are called terms of service, but it's under the FAQ. I want to play by the rules, so I'm going to start playing by the rules, and I'm not going to push any more inputs from today going forward. The other stuff is already on GitHub, so that's kind of hard to get rid of, but I'll clean it up later to some extent, but at least going forward, I'm not going to push any more inputs. We just test that the decryption works again, because I haven't tested the decryption with the real input. Yeah, that's GPG. And then there we go, that's the actual input again. All right, so I should be good to commit all of this. And then the other question is GitHub gonna be okay with these like binary-ish files? Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe it'll recognize the GPG extension and treat them appropriately. We'll find out. If I messed this up somehow, I can always re-download them and re-encrypt them properly. Okay, so this is what I'm going to push, and I'm not pushing plain text input. These are encrypted. Once again, just to confirm. So that's day 6. Yeah, I think that's going to be it for tonight. I have nobody in the chat. Is anybody actually watching me? I think not. I'm just watching myself now. Yeah, so I'm not going to bother with a raid. Yeah, I'm just going to end the stream. So thanks to anybody who tuned in. Really appreciate it. And I will catch you next time. Bye.